Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of The Spotlight 2020. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are watching on Facebook Live, give us some likes, give us some hearts, maybe a comment or two. That'd be great. And if you are watching on Ustream, please subscribe. We are growing and we would love to have you along for a ride. I want to start out today by giving a huge thank you to our sponsor, Jason Curtis of Bonvera. Jason has been very helpful and supportive in providing many different products for me to test out. And one of the things that I've been trying lately is the facial cleanser, which is designed to help plump up your wrinkles a little bit. So if I'm looking a little better than usual, it's all because of Bonvera. So, thank you so much, as I said, for joining me. Today, I get to introduce you to a beautiful soul that has just, how do I want to put this? She has a space of gentleness, as well as the intellect as sharp as a razor. She knows how the mind works and how you can make your mind work for you rather than against you. So please help me welcome Miss Lynn MacDonald, Three Principles Practitioner and founder of Mission Possible You. Thank you so much for joining me today. Lynn, how are you?
I'm great, Gail. Thanks for having me. Oh, you made me sound really good.
That's just my impression of you. I
Good, good.
think you are very, very good. So, how's things been going for you, Lynn?
Things are,
In the middle of all this chaos and confusion?
yeah, I know it's a crazy world, but that's really even more important now for the work that I do is to help people understand really how the mind works, especially, like I say, right now.
Yeah, yeah. We were just talking before the show, and it's interesting because right now, because of everything that's going on, we are inundated with all of these messages of chaos and confusion and fear and uncertainty. And it's so easy to let that be the prevailing thought of the day, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
And we have the power to do something about that, don't we?
Absolutely. And once we really understand again, how our mind works, and that's what's really key for people, and that's the work that I do.
That's phenomenal stuff. Now, let's begin with asking you a little bit about, you know, how you help those that come to you to learn how to use their mind for them instead of against them. What's your process?
Yeah, good question, Gail. I thought you'd never ask. So, so people come to see me for everything and anything. It doesn't really matter, but I work with a lot of women entrepreneurs who really want to get their message out in the world. Oftentimes, they feel like they lack confidence, or they don't have or they deal with procrastination. Or some people come, quite frankly, and they just want to be happy. They don't want to be depressed or live in anxiety anymore. So I run across this wonderful, wonderful, game changing, life transforming understanding called the Three Principles last year. And what the three principles do, it gives you a fresh, new understanding of it gives you a fresh, new understanding of how our experience of life works. And it helps with just about, it's really, to me, it's the cure for everything, in my experience, because it's the understanding of how you work as a spiritual being and as a human being, and you get freedom from your habits, from anxiety, from depression, and honestly, all insecure thinking. So you can live more from that place of peace and well being. And the beauty of it is, you don't really have to do anything, because that's who it is that we really are. It's just the understanding alone of how your experience works. That's what's transforming. What it's People don't know this, and these are just through my insights that emotions and feelings are a reaction of thought. It's
Mm-hmm.
how they're using the power of thought that they bring into thinking about a situation. It's not coming from the weather or cold weather or dark days or the election. or anything along that line. It's how they're thinking about it that's creating their experience, which is great because we're only made one way. We're only made to experience life from the inside out. And when people gain that, that's a game changer because their thinking looks so real to them. Because whatever we think, obviously, it becomes our personal reality. How we think, how we feel, and how we act, brought through thought and consciousness right through our senses. So whatever it is that we think, literally, we feel, but we get so caught up in it and we want to own that thinking and we get so attached to the thinking that thinking appears real and we live that reality.
Nice. It brings to mind that maybe Captain Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean is right. The problem is not the problem. It's your attitude about the problem that's the problem. Right? And we can shift that. That's phenomenal. Now, what kind of women tend to come to you for help? What kind of women can you help?
Well, I get all kinds of lovely ladies that come. And again, I have, like I say, some entrepreneur women that come, women in business, or just, again, women in general who are ready and committed to taking ownership of their life. Not, well, maybe I'll dip a toe, but they're like, I've had enough. I can't live this way anymore. I have people that come that go to the ER for anxiety attacks, people that have a disease because they spent a lifetime in stress. And what happens, obviously, those chemicals go throughout your body and cause disease. So when they, unfortunately, I wish they would have come earlier, but that's okay. They've come, but they're ready to make a shift in their life, and they're ready to begin to learn, and they're open to learning a different way of thinking about thinking, and learning more out about how that nature of thought within them works and the power that they really have. So it's incredible. It takes courage to go, you know what? I don't want this life anymore. I know that, I'm living some life that I've misidentified with.
There is, in my experience, just to back up what you're saying, there is a certain sacred power to being fed up. Some of the most drastic shifts in my life have come out of that moment of I've had it and I'm just not willing to take anymore, right? Yeah. And there, even forgive me, we have a lot of audience members with very different views on spirituality. And most of the ones that watch my show aren't necessarily quote unquote Christian, and therefore reject, Bible stuff. But even Jesus himself overturned the tables where the money changers in the temple. There is a righteous use for being done with it, right? So if you're in that space of I'm done, I don't want any more of this kind of stuff going on in my life, then that's the time to reach out to Lynn, because that's the sacred space to make a shift, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Gayle, and very good points you bring up. And this work is transformation. I don't give people advice. People have enough information, big distinction between information and transformation. Information doesn't change your life. You can Google whatever. But it's nice because most people you have to want someone to help facilitate that. And the work that I do is only insight-based. And people get insights through wisdom when they get them. But that's what transcends time, is the insights through wisdom. It doesn't matter how long you've dealt with something, that's irrelevant. Because when you see something from a different perspective, you get that mind shift, and your level of understanding and consciousness goes upwards. So you experience life very different than you did before.
Yes, that is amazing. Just creates an entirely new universe, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Nice. Now, can we talk a little bit more about what you just alluded to and the power of insight itself to make transformation in people's lives? How did you happen across this wonderful bit of knowledge? Was it experiential? Did you read it somewhere?
No, no. I once I learned. So see, I've always been involved with this work for many, many years, and I would always give people something to do because that's, coaching and mentoring, and that's what you do. Have people meditate, have people journal, have people move their body, which is wonderful. They're all absolutely phenomenal. But I found that sometimes people would just make, some part of their change, then they would go back. So I ran across this because these three principles, I study with Dr. Mark Howard, and he always says, you know what, Lynn, they find you, and it's so true. And so when I began to learn more and working with Mark, because he's world renowned in this, he's dedicated 40 years to the principles of practicing, and it changed everything because once I really understood that it was okay for people to, even myself, my whole life has shifted and changed. It's okay to have high moods and low moods. You can't install a new belief if you don't believe a new belief, and a belief is just a thought. So when you see it for what it really truly is, that's when you can transcend that. And it's not of the intellect.
Mm-hmm.
Though many people I initially worked with, and even I was guilty of this, and I say guilty of it because I'm the best of the analytical people out there. You want to figure it out in your mind, and it's just not, you can't. So through these insights is when you get fresh new thought that comes that you didn't have before about maybe a situation, maybe a new idea, a solution to something, and insights happen in seconds, and they come from the void. They come from a place, purity of thought, pure consciousness, when you're out of the contamination of your personal thinking. That's when you have something new and available. Most people know this when they're in the shower or on vacation. They've experienced something new coming into them. Because why? Their mind has lost the grip on all of those the thinking that they've had. So it's through the insights that change transcends time and changes. Mm-hmm. Because once they have an insight, someone has an insight, you never go back. Because what you saw, you see the truth of what that was before. So you can't go back.
It's like the inventor's eureka moment, right? Like, I found it. Something that, and I personally, I define a miracle much like what you were just kind of talking about. It is something that shifts your perception so that what previously seemed impossible now actually becomes possible in reality, just by a shift in how you see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's absolutely phenomenal.
And that's why. I'm sorry, but that's one more thing I want to mention. That's why I no longer worry about giving somebody something to do, because the true change comes from within, and it comes in from the change of the thinking that happens through the insight. And that's what, because as soon as you forget to do something on the outside, you're going back. So here, people have their own strategy, in a sense, on how to move into a better flow of thinking, along with spiritual intelligence, because that's what it's all about.
Nice, very nice. So, tell me a little bit more about what it is that past clients of yours have experienced after being coached in this way, because it is a very different way than even the more holistic minded of the coaches that I see out there are working with. This is unique. So what kind of results can ladies expect from this kind?
It's incredible, and everybody has transformation at their own pace through insights. But people who have dealt with anxiety and depression all of their life, that they've gone to therapy for 20, 30 years. I get a lot of people who have at some point been to therapy, and that's okay to a certain point. But talking about your problems is the worst thing in the whole world anybody could do, and asking why, because you're asking this, the content's already cooked and baked. There's nothing good that can come out of there, and our emotions come from our thinking. So people, this woman that I'm working with is just tremendous, and she has a sense of freedom now. She sees anxiety for what it is. She no longer allows it. I say allows it. She sees it for what it is, a passing, fleeting, habitual thought. And I'm not saying intellectually. These are some insights she's gotten. So she no longer struggles with anxiety or depression because they see it. People end up losing weight after because they no longer go to food to cope, because food is never the issue for people who binge, crave, or overeat. And as a side effect, they lose weight naturally because they're feeling good. They're not going to food to cope because they found their happiness and their peace inside, regardless of what's happening in their life and even in the world. Because you can still feel peace, calm, and contentment and well-being regardless of what's happening. But that's not how we've been conditioned. I used to do tapping before. I used to do a lot of different modalities, and tapping is just they're tapping out their emotions. But I've gotten deeper than that, just to realize emotions come from thought, and you can tap all you want, but it still comes back. Even though you've made some, maybe had reframed the scenario. But to me, for me anyway, this is the cure, because it's just helping people realize what they have already within them and how you work.
Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. I want to let you know that there. How do I want to put this? There is a time and a place for venting or talking about what is having you feel bad. So I 100% back you up on, therapy is not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
But as one of my old friends used to say, whatever will make you laugh will make you cry. Right? So you sit there in that mud puddle of regurgitating these things over and over without necessarily, and asking why, just going further down the rabbit hole, and don't necessarily get prodded in the direction that will provide insights to take you up out of it. It becomes toxic after a while, doesn't it?
Exactly, because insights can never come from the same level of mind that created the problem. And here's the thing, Gayle, that most people don't understand. The past is only kept alive by a thought, because when you're not thinking about the past, you're not living in the past. When you're not thinking about a situation, you're not feeling it. We are always and only feeling our thinking. Even some clients who come to me and say, I'm depressed 24/7. I said, no, that's not how thought works. There's absolutely no way you can be depressed 24/7. I tell a joke and they're hysterically laughing, right? And I go, got you. You just told me 24/7 that you were depressed. So, and when people can gain some insights into that, it's not that way. It's just that's how they're perceiving it to be. But we're always and only feeling our thinking. We're not thinking about it. We're not in it. Even forgiveness.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right, we're going to take just a moment to get a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
That is my favorite CV product that we have. You know how I mentioned that we have our own, like, as veterans, and there's other people too that have these chronic pain problems. Well, I've always had chronic pain problems, not only from being in the military, but from being a pediatric cancer survivor. I had a tumor that was hooked onto my spinal cord, go down into my right leg. So I have kind of a little bit of a different curvature that always caused back pain. Ever since I started using that product, zero pain. And I used to down ibuprofen and use a special cream that I got from the VA. That worked okay, but I didn't like the fact that I was downing ibuprofen 800 milligrams like they were candy. But ever since I started using this product, I'm 100% pain-free.
And welcome back. All right, now I want to continue our conversation with what we just left off of. And my age is showing. It's just flown out of my head. But we're...
Passing, fleeting thought, what'd I tell you?
Exactly. But we were talking specifically about, help me out here.
Yeah, about, well, I know I probably want to give you a client example, right? So you can kind of get your head around this.
Yes, please. Please do. I apologize. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. So I'm just talking like all of this is really conceptual till you can put it into a story. But even I'll just share what's happened to me in a client story, which is a really great share. So even before all of my running across the principles, like everyone, I was very judgmental. I was very critical. When listening to someone talk, I couldn't wait to give them my opinion or tell them you should do this. And I really couldn't see people for really what they were. But since running across this understanding and really gaining the insights, I see people now for more love and understanding, because when someone does something wrong, so to speak, they're at that level of consciousness, and you're moment to moment, it's your thinking that creates your reality. So really what's happened is they're only in a quality level of thinking moment to moment, and that's all they know. And when you see someone for that, where they only know what they only know and in that level of thinking, that's all they know. So it's not really their fault in a sense. I'm not saying that you would agree what they did. I don't mean anything like that. But even looking back on our own past, even for me, on things that I did in the past, and now I look back with just love and understanding, and realize I was doing the best I could based on the level of thinking I had in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's key here. And when I no longer judge and criticize anymore, I see that that was just how I operated. Now I don't even operate from there anymore, because I'm in that space more of well-being, where I feel content, peace, and calm regardless of what's happening. I'm not saying I don't fall back to the human condition, we all do, but I like it better where I am now at this level of consciousness. I can deal with whatever it is in a better way. I can respond in a better way, with more compassion. So it changes every aspect of your life, everything. And even one of my clients, she literally just, spent many years living in the past, same type of thinking over and over and over again. And she wouldn't go out of her house barely. She was not sociable. She didn't have a great relationship with her family. And that's all she would be was, more of the past, negative, like she used to be. And she's not anymore, but everything shifted for her when she saw that she really wasn't that person anymore. And she understood what was happening, and she now helps women as well. And she goes to the grocery store and says, I can't stop talking with people. And she lives with more compassion, love, and understanding also, in more of her innate well-being, her happiness as well. And it's so hard to put all of these are just words. It's very difficult to put this into words because it's so beyond the words. And it's living more from a good feeling. And when you live more from a good feeling, you're living in the present moment.
That's awesome. I recall what I was about to talk about is I wanted to pull apart a little bit more of this habitual thinking, because I can relate. I can recognize this as well, in that this habitual thinking, we develop these systems of thought autoresponders. When I say hello, you say back. When I say how are you, you say fine. Kind of thing. These automatic, this is what I say when somebody says this to me. So a lot of times, here's a really good example. I had lived away from my family for a few years, and my sister had said something, and she's lived away from my family for even longer. And she said, it's difficult to go back home because you never realized until you were gone for a while how mean we are to each other, right? So in my household growing up, we would crack jokes at each other that were designed, like take you down a peg, right? And it was almost at my level. My sister's 8 years older than me, right? At my level, I was an adult, but less life experience. I hadn't kind of got to where she'd got to yet. It was fun. It was fun, who could come back with the more cutting response quicker. You know, it was competitive. It was great. And at her point in life, she's like, yeah, this stuff, it piles up in your head. And you start believing the things that are said to you. And then you start acting from them as reality. And we just don't get how habitual thinking literally creates our experience of life, both on the outside and within, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Gail. And here's the thing about that. You're right. Most people know that on the intellectual level, thought creates our reality. Don't believe everything you think, let it go. Here's the piece that people are missing. They're missing the understanding of the nature of thought. And I say the nature of thought on how it works on the spiritual level, which means how you work, because we're all spiritual beings having this human experience. Mm-hmm. And that's the ticket. Once people understand and gain insights into the nature of thought, they're able to let more of that habitual pattern of thinking go, letting it go, and they spend more time in their well-being.
Nice. Now, do you find that people have a difficult time, or maybe need or require practice to start getting used to not auto-responding and not habitual thinking? Or is it something that just kind of falls away and becomes new?
It falls away by the understanding. There's absolutely nothing to do at all. It just literally falls away from the understanding. Because see, even if you told somebody to do something, even like whatever it might be out there, people think that that is the cause that made them change and shift. It's not. It's even at that point, it's their thinking change. Just like on vacation, like I wrote a post yesterday. People go on vacation, they go, oh my gosh, it feels so good. In fact, it's been so long and so relaxed. And even though they're in a great place, and maybe they're at the beach. Who doesn't love the beach? But it's not the beach that caused them to feel that way. It's their thinking change. They loosen the grip. They're not in their habitual pattern of thinking. But they think the beach did it. But it's really their thinking changed.
Yeah. Now, I'm interested to drill down on that a little bit, because there is some science behind the fact that moving water creates negative ions that counteract the positive ions that we are surrounded by with technology, right? So where does that kind of a thing fit in, where literally our environment helps us to change our thinking, which is what makes us feel better? Even if we think, oh, being at the beach did this for me, well, you might have had the same experience if you took a shower instead of, you don't have to go to the beach to get there.
Right, correct, yeah. And we don't have to go to the beach to feel good. I mean, I'm not saying anything's wrong with it. I don't know about the ion thing, but I just know our experience always and only comes from the way that we're using the spiritual power of thought brought into thinking, which is now form. So it's our thinking that's really changed, just like even at a holiday. It's always our thinking that changed to make us feel better. But if you don't know that, you think it's that circumstance that caused you to feel better. That's right. It's a total misunderstanding out there, innocently, of course, I always say, because that's where people know, and how everybody's just been brought up to believe that caused me to feel better. But really, technically, it's their thinking that changed, because you can only experience life via thought.
Yeah, that is very true. And people just don't realize that. I imagine working with you, they come to realize this, but they just don't realize that you have the ability to change how you feel in any given moment just by choosing to think about something differently.
Well,
or
almost.
Think about something different, I should say.
And that's the piece that gets confusing for people, because you can't really change a thought. Here's the thing. That's all people need to know is their emotion. I say need to know, but this is intellect, conceptual. But anyway, I'll just share. Emotions are like the check engine light, a barometer that goes, hey, you know what, you're lousy emotions. You're just out of the flow of life. No big deal. Let's not analyze it. Just by knowing you know you're in a low mood, because part of the spiritual intelligence, this is a piece that people miss about the spiritual nature of thought, we're guided back into a better mood. And yes, that gives us fresh new thinking automatically.
Nice.
That's the beauty of this. Oh my gosh, I could be there forever talking about that. Scratch the surface, but anyway, that's the beauty of this. There's nothing to change. You can't monitor your thinking. Affirmations don't work at all, because when you understand how thought works, there's no way. It's a great concept, but when you use the spiritual nature, understand that is what's the game changer. Yeah.
That's an unpopular opinion. I'll give you that. That affirmations don't work at all.
I shouldn't say that in general. I don't mean it that way. Maybe for some people they think it works, and that's fine. But when you understand the nature of thought, you would see things differently. That's all. So if it's working for somebody and they think it's working, then that's okay.
Yeah,
But
I think that for a lot of people, you know, this entire university of learning how, the owner's manual for being human, right? There's a lot of different beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels, right? And I think that there's a large segment of the population that gets to the reality of what you're talking about, going through the misunderstanding level of it, and going, well, I think the affirmations work for me, but in fact it was something metaphysical to the affirmation, which is what you're drilling down on, that actually did the work. So rather than them not being able to coexist at all, they're kind of a different filter on the same thing. Am I off base? Am I completely missing it?
Here's the thing, we all use these principles, whether we know it or not. We are the principles in action. So you can use them any which way really that you want, because we have that power. But the ultimate level of understanding is, you're right, the owner's manual. And because your level of consciousness rises upwards, I don't know if it does on an affirmation, if somebody's life really changes, I don't know. But this work, and when you understand what's under your hood, you do change your life. It transforms. You don't suffer from the same problems at all. The problems look very different. So this is like it. This is the true transformational work. Mm-hmm. I say work, but it's just by understanding that alone is what transforms your life. And then when you're, further up that level of consciousness, you spend more time in well-being. Which is
Nice. So I know that you've got some stuff coming up, don't you? You're in the works, planning on some things. Hopefully I'll get to see you coming to Sedona in April. That'll be exciting. You want to tell us a little bit, or is it too early?
I'm planning, right now I'm working with a travel agent who's doing all the legwork, luckily. And I should have all the information in about 2 weeks. And I'm looking at April 2021 for a women's retreat in Sedona, Arizona, which will be Friday, Saturday, and half day on a Sunday. And it is this, insightful conversations. And it's powerful because, again, women, like-minded women coming together, and you can learn from each other. And it's a wonderful experience. This weekend, though, I'm offering something that's virtual. I'm calling it Conversations Over Coffee. I used to do that last year, and I wanted to bring that back, where people can find more peace and calm by gaining some insights into something that they need. And that's this Saturday, Eastern Standard Time, 10:10 a.m.
Nice. So that'll be 7:10 in the morning for West Coasters, and somewhere in the middle for the rest of the flyover states. How can our audience reach out to that? Will you provide a link in the comments and so forth?
And they can contact me on my profile page too. On my Lynn MacDonald page, I have the Conversations Over Coffee there, or in general, missionpossibleyou@gmail.com.
Excellent. Now, you also offered a 90-minute gifted, insightful conversation that I gotta I got an exclamation point this all over the place. A 90-minute? Are you kidding me?
You have to give people, and I've studied with Steve Chandler and, and all these high-end coach people who really get this type of work, and 90 minutes will help give somebody the experience. And usually out of that, if somebody could at least gain one insight that can, again, transform something in their life, because you could talk about this work and you have to experience it. And so 90 minutes, you'd be surprised how fast that goes by. But 90 minutes gives people an opportunity to dive deep, you see, and they get some insights, or one insight, whatever it is, I don't know. Everybody gets something different. And then we have a chance to review them at the end and put some action into those insights as well.
Phenomenal. That's awesome. So to please reach out to Lynn, grab that. I am still stunned that, because as tasters go, that's a very, very generous one. And it doesn't seem impossible that your entire life could shift during this free conversation. So please reach out, take her up for it before she comes to her senses again. Okay. Lynn, I really want to thank you so much for being here with me today, and for doing what you're doing, because there are a lot of people that have been doing this work so long that have gotten to the level where this is the next step for them. And without you doing it, there's no other place for them to go. So thank you for the work that you do in the world. And do you have any final thoughts for our audience today?
I always say, live more from a good feeling. When you live more from a good feeling, you're living in the moment, in the present moment, where all the action is.
That's beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you again, and have a great day. Bye, Facebook.
That is my favorite CV product that we have. You know how I mentioned that we have our own, like, as veterans, and there's other people too that have these chronic pain problems. Well, I've always had chronic pain problems, not only from being in the military, but from being a pediatric cancer survivor. I had a tumor that was hooked onto my spinal cord, go down into my right leg. So I have kind of a little bit of a different curvature that always caused back pain. Ever since I started using that product, zero pain. And I used to down ibuprofen and use a special cream that I got from the VA. That worked okay, but I didn't like the fact that I was downing ibuprofen 800 milligrams like they were candy. But ever since I started using this product, I'm 100% pain-free.